consciously create our own world. We must consciously create our own world, not according to mindless customs and destructive prejudices, but according to the canon of reason, reflection, and discourse that uniquely belongs to our own species. Capitalism is a compulsively expansive system. A modern market economy dictates that an enterprise must grow or die, and nothing will prevent capitalism from industrializing, or more accurately, expanding endlessly over the entire face of the planet whenever it is prepared to do so. Only the complete reconstruction of society and the economy can end the dilemmas that globalization raises. The exploitation of workers and the enhancement of corporate power to the point of threatening the stability, indeed the very safety, of this planet.
People to understand that if I text you H-E-H-E, it's not it's
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Focus on Infinity Hour, more or less. As you can see, we're having a little technical hiccup here and there, but that's okay because look, that's what happens when you're doing it live. And also, we're doing it a little bit differently than we have before for reasons that if you know, you know, and if you don't know, it ain't none of your business, right? So, so what we're going to be doing now is talking a little bit about what is happening in the world. because it is a little bit important for us to know. Um, remember how I said a few weeks ago that we had crossed into a state of war, and I was just talking about it astrologically? Because astrology is reflective and not causal, it's impossible really to say exactly before something happens how it's going to play out and what it's going to really do. But I can say this. You heard me. You heard us tell you that we had crossed into a state of war, right? And then we did. We literally went to war, literally into a new. And look, people are going to say all kinds of stuff, right? They're going to say all kinds of stuff like, well, we've always been at war. And look, okay? Nobody hates leftists more than other leftists. And I'm guilty because sometimes we be insufferable. And by we, I also mean me, because sometimes the Cassandra complex, it gets to you. Knowing in advance what's going to happen because you're paying attention, right? By the time everybody else catches up, you're like, well, I told you this was going to happen. And you know what? Even though you're right, it makes you a little bit insufferable. And again, me at me, right? Yes, America has done stuff like this before. Yes, every single American president has taken us into illegal wars. Yes, that is absolutely true. However, we have to keep in mind that history does not happen in isolation. It compounds. Okay? It compounds. So it's not like, oh yeah, this is just like whenever, ex-president this is just like the invasion of Iraq. Well, it's kind of like the invasion of Iraq, except no, it's not, right? Because we didn't have climate change at that point in time. We didn't also have the pandemic, which shall not be named at that time. We didn't also have further escalations of every single thing at that time, right? So that's why they say history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So it is possible for this escalation, for our fucked up escalation. We have officially become the Axis powers, okay? That don't, and anyone who tells you that like you're exaggerating by saying that, they're just in denial, okay? We have gone, first of all, this is really this is blowing my mind because we went into Venezuela and literally kidnapped a foreign leader. And that didn't do it for most people. That wasn't enough for people to be like, are we the baddies? Do you think we're the baddies? When we paraded Maduro around in the back of a fucking truck, right? Like he was some sort of prize. The streets of my own city, okay? In the back of a truck, right? That wasn't enough for us to say, hey, we've maybe gone a little too far, partially because those of us who are in denial about it are still in denial. And those of us who've known this was coming are like, well, this is just like what we always do. And it's not. You're both wrong, right? The nuance of things, and I'm going to talk about like how there needs to be a new nuance, how we have to recalibrate our nuance, but hold on. There has to be nuance to every situation, right? But that nuance doesn't mean that the answer is in the middle. That's a centrist lie. Nuance just means you have to consider all of the actual facets that are at play, right? So, yes, we have attacked Iran before. I saw a tweet that said, my daughter has already seen 2 completely illegal, assassinations of foreign leaders, and she's 7 weeks old. 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Okay, it's absolutely fucking wild how much worse this particular presidency is than others. And yes, it is following a theme, but things don't get better if you don't change them. They get worse, right? Conditions just get worse. We're running out of water, partially because of climate change, partially because AI is speeding along, right? We are running out of resources. We are being isolated further from the rest of the world. They are clamping down on the internet even here. Look into this and actually make fucking noise about it. I was just looking into how Google is basically going to clamp down on all apps. Official this September, if they have their way, if we don't raise fucking hell about it like we did with Discord, and we got Discord to stop the bullshit, okay? Because Discord a couple days ago was supposed to implement some stuff with biometrics or all kinds, and they said, okay, actually, because of public outcry, we're not going to do that, right? So keep this in mind when I tell you this. They're going to make it so that in order to put an app out there in the Google Play Store, you have to basically give ID, go through verifications. Basically, it will make it so that it is impossible for like more independent app designers or creators to put apps out there into the world that other people can get through their store. That is a way of enclosing the digital commons that they have not been successful in doing in any other way. That's fucking dangerous. Think about this. If you have to basically go through Google, which is the feds, right? We've talked about how bad Google is, how you should get all your stuff off Google, especially if you're an organizer, because they just give it right over to the feds, right? But if Google is the gatekeeper in terms of who can put an app out, what happens when they decide that, well, you know, we don't like Signal because that lets people communicate too quietly. We don't want that. We don't want that. We're going to take that away, right? Any app that does not agree to hand over their information could literally disappear overnight. And don't tell me that I'm imagining that Google might do that, because they already have. Because they've already turned over information directly to the feds, because they already are reading all of your emails. They already have all the info that you give them, right? They are scraping it for AI. They are basically they're just using it for whatever they want. It's theirs, they consider, not yours, right? You're like, another thing, besides just organizing, if you have any artwork, any writing, any of that on Google, get it off. Take it off of there. Because, and listen, there's a lot to cover. We're going full Mercury retrograde, Mercury in Pisces, okay? It's not going to be linear, but you'll get the message. You're going to have to fight harder, because the ways that they are controlling things, it's accelerating. It's all accelerating. It's not, people are like, well, it's happened before, maybe something like it has happened before, but not this. And we have a particular confluence, be it of circumstances, be it of astrology, and of course it's always both and, right? Because it's reflective, not causal, right? It's both and. This particular set of circumstances is new. It has never happened before, right? And definitely not all of it at once. And what does that mean? It means that whatever you're doing, you gotta fucking do more of it. Seriously. This is, and this is both like a call out and a plea, because we really, really are not acting like we know how bad shit is. We are still slow playing stuff. We are still soft pedaling conversations that we're having with people, right? I have stepped up the game in my own life, because if you know me, you know that I believe in standing on business. If I tell you to do something, I'm doing that thing, or I have already done it, or have already been doing it, because I'm not just going to be out here talking. Right? I'm going to actually be telling you something that I know works, because I have done it already. In my own life, people who I know to be of good heart and mind, but who are miseducated in some way, I'm going full court press on those motherfuckers, or I'm simply not going to be communicating with them. Why? Because there are people out there who are ready, who know, people like yourselves, people who are doing the work, right? Because what we need right now is to fight. We have crossed into a state of war. This excursion, this adventure, this expedition, this fucking epic fury. Okay, first of all, who let them name these? Like, it's so goofy to name an actual military operation Epic Fury. Like, are you a child? This is an escalation, and its intention is to destabilize the region. Its intention is to destabilize the world. It's to dare every other country to do something about it. What this is, and of course we already did it with Venezuela, but this is even another escalation of it. This is the second one. Sometimes, in order to establish dominance, right, a bully will go out onto the playground and just smack somebody across the face. And look at everybody like, what? Who's gonna do something? Are you gonna do something about this? No? Okay then. And then slap somebody else upside the face. This is what is happening. Other countries have seen what we've done with Venezuela, which, by the way, really good strategic move to secure a bunch of oil before engaging in military operations, which are going to need a lot of oil. Interesting. Interesting. Other countries are going to call our bluff. Are you prepared to be a good German? Because that's what you are right now. If you're not raising absolute hell, if you're not organizing, if you're not protecting your neighbors, if you're not setting up systems, if you're not prepping, if you're not divesting from the systems, and yes, that includes AI, and yes, that includes Google, that includes every single way that you can participate in the system, all of them. You have to divest from all of them. Why? Because we're not all soldiers, but we can all fight. We have entered into a state of war. We're in a state of war. And there are no demilitarized zones. Right? It's the last line in my poem Throne of Bones. There are no demilitarized zones. The American armchair is a throne of bones. We just blew up 100 Iranian schoolgirls. Why? And why did we do that? Regime change war, partially, but even more to destabilize the region. And even more because, and this is so dark, but evangelical Christians, they're making a prophecy come true so that they can say that a prophecy is coming true. But the most anti-Semitic thing you could do is support what the blue and white country is doing. Why? Because it's being backed by evangelical Christians who are trying to bring on the end days. What happens in their book at the end of times? Everybody in the blue and white country, all of the people from the blue and white country, most of them don't make it. It's by definition an exterminationist fairy tale using the exact same people who they're using as the spear point, right? Because we all know the blue and white country is a forward base for white supremacy in that region. We all know that, right? But they're not supposed to make it according to their mythology. Look it up. Look it up. It's really, really dark. And this is not the first step. We're so many steps into this. But we're at war. We're at war. And so if you are against it, you need to act like it. You need to live like it. You need to do everything that you can to stop it, right? Push on every lever that you have. If you work at a corporation, if you happen to work at Lockheed Martin, start losing files. Make sure there are no staplers in the building, okay? Do something because it all matters. Because it all matters, right? We've got a fantastic show for you this evening. And we're going to probably mix things up because Mercury is doing what it's doing. And what I always do is you got to just go with it. You really got to just go with it, okay? Don't try and fight it because change is going to happen. Things are going to get a little mixed up. And you can either fight it or you can say, okay, well, that's not how I intended it. What are we doing now, right? Flexibility. That's the key. That's the only thing that's going to get us through this. And as a double fixed sign, flexibility is not the easiest thing in the world for me, but I'm doing it too. And if I can do it, I know that you can. I believe in you because you're excellent. Don't forget to share the stream. Please share the stream. Please share videos from the show that you have enjoyed. Usually I'll put up 1 or 2 or 3 videos containing, parts of the show, even just the Lara Listens or the Astrological Weather Report, whatever it is, right? We need your help to continue pushing this kind of thing because the other thing that we are doing here, again, this is part of a way we fight back because shows like this, news, information, art, humor, whatever it is, straight from the people to the people is not something that they own. And yes, I know the irony of the fact that Google owns this platform, but I'm going to use the pitchfork that the owner of the fucking plantation gave me in order to go and jab up everybody in that building because it's what I got. right? Use what you got. And all the, oh, well, you're going to protest capitalism on an iPhone. Yeah, yes, I am. I'm going to protest it on an iPhone. I will use a quill pen. I will use a carrier pigeon. I will write it backwards on Jeff Bezos's forehead if I can. Okay? I will use whatever I got because that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do to get out of these conditions. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to go to our next segment. Well, 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 we're back. We're back. And now we're going to get into, instead of what we usually do, we're doing things a little bit differently because guess what? That's what you got to do sometimes. But we're going to go right to our weekly delve into one of my favorite vinyls from my collection, and that is called Lara Listens. And we're going to go straight to it. And we're going to do something different, okay? We've done a lot of great artists from the past. I'm going to do something a little bit more current, something that you actually maybe already have. I'm sure you've heard it, but I think we deserve to hear it and talk about it. And it is this one right here. The Sinner soundtrack. Listen. Have you heard this soundtrack? Have you heard it? It's so fucking good. I mean, listen, we could do a whole show about just the movie itself, because being a lover of like that period, that time period, and any sort of period piece from that time period, but then you add from like a black lens, and then you add, I'm a horror girly, okay? So then you have it be a vampire movie in addition to being everything else it was. Wow. And the way that it deals with all the complex themes of all, like, the racial interplay and the real villain being not the vampires, but the old rich white dudes, right? Let's keep that a stack, okay? Like, that was always the real villain. But anyway, before we get off down too far on that trail, this soundtrack contains, so if you looked at my title, you would see that it is the album that I have listened to by far the most. Like almost every song from it is amazing. And it's got great period pieces, but it's also got Pick Poor Robin Clean, which is kind of like it's really creepy also in the context when you're talking about a bunch of vampires, kind of like seeing a jaunty old-timey tune about like picking poor who is Robin and how are you picking him clean? That's terrifying, absolutely terrifying in context. And it's got, now the song In Moonlight it feels kind of like one of the vampires' anthems. And little music trivia: Jerry Cantrell is the person who sings and wrote that song, and Jerry Cantrell is, if you know, one of the main people behind Alice in Chains, the surviving original main songwriter, singer, guitarist of Alice in Chains. And so if you thought that you recognized that voice, you probably did. And I'm a big Alice in Chains fan. And not Lane Staley. Okay, all right, this is a tangent. It is, of course, a tragedy that Lane Staley is no longer with us. And get mad at me about this if you want to, but he just had the look of somebody that wouldn't have aged well. Like, and I don't mean physically. I'm talking about white guy with dreads when young often turns into white racist when older. I don't know. I'm just glad that his memory is not sullied by him pulling a fucking Kid Rock or an Axl Rose or a Billy Corgan or a whatever, right? Brilliant song. Pale Pale Moon is the fucking stomp clap anthem, okay, of all times. Black as hell, beautiful. Last Time I Seen the Sun, I'm gonna show y'all the inside of it as well, by the way. Last Time I Seen the Sun, it's a beautiful duet. Here's the inserts. It's a booklet. Look at that. Look at the artwork in here. We got Smoke and we got Stack. And I figure, look, we talked so much about the BAFTAs. Let's show you the reason that they were in them. You can listen to this start to finish, okay? And look, I am not an Irish person, okay? But when I hear Rocky Road to Dublin, I become Michael Flatley, okay? Like you can't, even just thinking about it, you can't see my legs, but I'm river dancing. Can you tell? Yeah. So good. Also, I Lied to You. I Lied to You is one of the best. The scene where that's in the movie is, I think, one of the best music related sequences in, I think, film history. It has so much history and so many different cultures woven in. Basically, all of the cultures that were marginalized in America are woven into it, and both the the modern, at least for that time, version, and also a little bit, it goes into the future, it goes into the past. It's so fucking beautiful. If you can, telling you, cop this on vinyl, because I strongly believe it is musically, sonically, historically a relic. It is a piece of artwork that belongs to America. I got to stop calling it America, to the United States, in a real way, in a real way, right? Because the story of this country should always be told by Black people, by marginalized people, like always, and even dealing with the ways that we have to integrate in some ways to survive. It's just so complicated and beautiful, and also scary and hot as well. I have never seen a movie where so many pussies get eaten. I'm not saying nothing, I'm just saying. Next on our hit parade for tonight is, have you heard of a little band called Lovage? You probably haven't. This is one of my, so I like things a little bit weird. You know, I like to go into some deep cuts. You may know Michael Patton. Mike Patton is the lead male singer of Lovage. He is best known for being in Faith No More. But if you look up this man's discography, he's one of the great male vocalists of our time, in my opinion. He's so good. In fact, another little bit of music history trivia: Mike Patton plays the voice of the creature in a game called The Darkness. And when they were, it's this like extraterrestrial entity that basically possesses and inhabits a mafioso. And the voice of the entity is Mike Patton. And they were going to like add effects and stuff to his voice. And he was like, I don't need that. And he just does it all just with his instrument. A really amazing vocalist. But anyway, this particular album is called Lovage is the name of the group. Music to Make Love to Your Old Lady by, which in a hilariously tongue-in-cheek kind of way is actually accurate. It's like it's weirdly hot. It's weirdly hot. And the woman Jennifer Charles, who sings with him, their duets are they're sensual, they're fun, they're cute. And there's also, here's the back. There's also some little interludes and things like that. Some really funny ones. One, unfortunately, containing Africa Bambaataa, who you want to talk about a tragic story, and a story of someone who has both done tons for their community and also is one of the fucking great villains. Like we're talking Epstein style villains, unfortunately, of the community. Even though he was, yeah, humans be complicated. But anyway, I highly recommend you check out this album. It's really, really fun. There's a song called Strangers on a Train, which is basically it's like a skit in song form where two people meet on a train, and the things that happen. Here's the insert. Got the vibes. I don't know if you know Dan the Automator from Handsome Boy Modeling School, but he is he was the person who was responsible for a lot of the music in this album. He's the producer of it. Damien Thorne, aka Damien Albarn from Blur, is also in it. It's really, really fun. It's a really fun album. It's and it also has a cover of Sex in parentheses I'm a which you may know from the original artist, and it's got a totally different vibe. It's got a syrupy, sultry vibe instead of the one it's got. Look into the songs you should look into. Actually, if I was going to just give you one song to check out, I would give you two, actually. I would say Pit Stop, Take Me Home, because that really has a good duet. And it's got Mike Patton doing some of the great sexy things he does with his voice. And another one is Book of the Month. Book of the Month, again, really hot song. It's it's one of those albums. You know, the name of it, again, it's like tongue in cheek, you know, music to make love to your old lady by. But like it sounds like a joke, and it is a joke, but also it's very serious. And if you have the right kind of sense of humor, this is a good album for a time with your special person or people, and listen, we don't, we're not gendered here, okay, all right, like we don't have to even mention that, right? But get into it, babes, get into it. Lovage. Nathaniel Merriweather presents Lovage, music to make love to your old lady by Mike Patton, Jennifer Charles, and I probably will do a lot of Mike Patton's albums because he is, as I said, probably my favorite male vocalist, at least rock vocalist of the modern times. And yes, I know that's saying a lot. And it's close. It's very close because there's a lot of them, but he's got just the way that he does things with his voice. He also is in Mr. Bungle. Mr. Bungle is one of those bands that most of you, I'm not going to lie, most people probably won't like it. It's kind of math rock. It's kind of weird. It's all over it's kind of like if you crossed metal with circus music with something that if a spaceship landed, they would be bumping out of their spaceship. But he does that too and does the weirdest things with his voice. Really, really, really great. Really talented human. And I would highly recommend it. So that's going to be Lara Listens for this week. Now we're going to go into our next segment, if we're lucky. But stick with us and we'll be right back.
Folks, are you feeling weepy and sleepy these days? Dreamy, spacey, head in the clouds, trouble focusing, but also soft, restful, creative, intuitive, spiritual. Welcome to Pisces season and this ongoing Mercury retrograde in Pisces. But meanwhile, Pisces ruling planet Neptune is in fiery Aries. People are out there acting like assholes, driving terribly, being impulsive and downright mean. There's so much to be rightfully rageful about in the world, and now we're going to war too, I guess? It is such a weird mix of astrological energies in the air right now. Enter this week, featuring a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo tomorrow morning, which is sure to disrupt our Piscean dreams, but we have some other transits to help us process that eclipse and bridge this transitional Pisces Aries energy that we're going through. So let's dive in and take a closer look. Today is Monday, March 2nd, and early this morning, the moon entered service-oriented analytical Virgo on its way to tomorrow's eclipse. This morning, we also saw Mars ingress into the sign of Pisces, where it'll be for the next 5-ish weeks. So there's a chance that our energy will dissipate even more easily now. Like steam coming off a hot spring, we might feel our drive is harder to access in the deep waters of Pisces. But this is the sign of empathy and interconnectedness. So spending time in this environment, Mars is being reminded of the beauty and love in this world that is worth fighting for, of the most vulnerable who are in need of protecting. Sometimes, especially in this society, compassion takes courage. Connecting with authentic, decolonized spirituality takes courage. Dreaming of and creating a better future takes courage. And that is what Mars in Pisces is here to do. Which brings us to the morning of Tuesday, March 3rd. Now, the moon will be at 13 degrees of Virgo, opposite the sun at 13 degrees of Pisces. And that spells a full moon. But with the moon just a few degrees away from the south node in Pisces, the conditions are right for a lunar eclipse, folks. This is the second in a pair of eclipses, so we're closing up that eclipse portal. The first one was a solar eclipse a couple weeks ago, which tends to be more about external events. But as they relate to the emotional moon, lunar eclipses tend to work their biggest impact on our internal landscape. Think the usual heightened emotions of a full moon times 100 with that unpredictable turbulence of an eclipse. And a south node eclipse like this one points us toward the more negative aspects of the sign that it's in, because the south node tells us about the toxic baggage that we are collectively called to release at this time. Release is a big theme of full moons anyway, so that makes this a very powerful moment. Our assignment right now is to let go of the nitpicky criticism and judgment associated with the sign of Virgo, to decondition ourselves from perfectionism, which is a tool of white supremacy, to reject purity culture, carceral thinking and systems, individualism, and the notion that some people are more worthy of surviving and thriving than others. To remember that our disempowering sense of shame, guilt, and inadequacy is no coincidence, but intentionally programmed into us by an oppressive system. This isn't always talked about in astrology, but power imbalances. In ancient astrology, this was the sign of servants and slaves, along with its associated house, the sixth house. So, to be clear, slavery still very much exists in today's world. This is still a relevant topic to talk about. And now we've reached such an extreme of power imbalance, with most of our resources concentrated in the hands of a few greedy, brutally violent villains. So these are the material structures of oppression that we need to destroy, but also that we need to dismantle inside our minds, hearts, and souls, so that we don't become agents who enable, empower, and perpetuate those systems and beliefs, right? Many of us live with constant anxiety in today's world, and for good reason. But an imbalance of Virgo energy will have us pointlessly running in circles, fussing over little details, wasting our energy, endlessly preparing and worrying and never taking action. This will have us endlessly criticizing ourselves, beating ourselves up, only to then project that judgment and criticism onto others. It'll have us feeling so hopeless about the gap between reality as it is and as it should or could be. And listen, if this is triggering to hear, I have my Sun, Venus, and Jupiter in Virgo. Okay, I know, I empathize, but this is the hard lesson we need to learn right now. This is the bitter medicine that we need to swallow. And what helps us to do that is the sweetness of Pisces, where the North Lunar Node is transiting through these days. That Piscean compassion, empathy, intuition, spiritual connection, love, revolutionary optimism that we're being called towards, that we're reflecting on with this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So here's your assignment for tomorrow's eclipse. If you believe that all human life is inherently worthy, remember that that also applies to yourself. Try to forgive yourself from that self-punishing criticism that keeps you incapacitated and imbalanced, so that you can move forward and really do some good in this world. How about that? Well, time marches on, and so shall we, taking a look at Wednesday, March 4th, a very Venusian day, when lovely Venus will be at just under 28 degrees of Pisces, forming a sextile to Uranus at the same degrees of Taurus. This can really stimulate the revolutionary love that this era is calling us toward. It's a chance to invite more authenticity and liberation into our relationships, which are the foundation of the revolution. And that can be a relationship with yourself as well as with others. This transit can bring a spark of energy to really align the way we utilize our resources with our revolutionary values. Uranus does tend to upset the balance that Venus strives so hard to achieve, but with this sextile, that will hopefully be a helpful recalibration. So Wednesday is a good opportunity to change things up. And that same day, the moon will move into Venus-ruled Libra, the sign of relationships and harmony, balance, and beauty. The next day, Thursday, March 5th, we will see the sun halfway through the sign of Pisces, forming a trine to Jupiter, which is retrograde at 15 degrees of Cancer. This is a very heart-opening transit, inviting a flow of emotion, spirituality, and healing between these two water signs. Thursday, I like as a sort of salve for processing whatever might arise during tomorrow's eclipse. This trine can expand our energy in a more compassionate, creative direction. It's a great chance to nurture and care for ourselves and others. It's perfect energy for cultivating self-love, again on the heels of that Virgo eclipse, while also reminding us that we are transcendent, bigger than our individual identities, part of this vast interconnected cosmic consciousness. So this trine can reinvigorate our faith, resilience, and generosity, our dreams and connection to the cosmos. It's very supportive to this inward Mercury retrograde journey that we're on. But then, early in the morning of Friday, March 6th, Venus will swim out of the Piscean Ocean and into the sign of Aries, bringing a sudden fiery boldness and courage to Venus. You may feel a spike of passion on Friday. You might feel called to bravely, honestly address challenging tensions in your relationships, or otherwise just descend into pointless conflict and misdirected anger. Maybe you'll boldly venture into an intimidating creative project. Maybe you'll harness this energy to fight for equality and justice. Because love and compassion doesn't mean that you take harm and oppression lying down, whether for your own sake or for that of others. Venus and Aries can stand up for itself, fight, face its fears, wield art, beauty, creativity, and love as tools or even weapons. It can be direct, embodied, empowered, and present. And on Friday evening, the moon enters deep, passionate Scorpio, giving us more of a chance to bravely explore our intense emotions and close relationships. Then, early the morning of Saturday, March 7th, we will highlight Mercury retrograde again as the sun is conjunct Mercury at 17 degrees of Pisces. This transit can help you open your mind and empower your voice. It can shine a light on our Mercury retrograde reflections, making them more personal, asking us to evaluate our identity and self-image in light of everything going on up in the sky and down here on Earth. And if you want to refresh on what this Mercury retrograde in Pisces is all about, you can always check out my weather report from last week's show. But another transit is happening shortly after this one on Saturday, when Venus will be conjunct Neptune at 1 degree of Aries. And as I mentioned earlier, a transit like this can help to bridge the messy rebirth of a transition between dreamy Pisces and bold, brave Aries. Venus conjunct Neptune is a great time for inspired visionary creativity. It's a chance to experience deep, beautiful spiritual connection, to lean into boundless empathy and compassion in our relationships and in society in a broader sense. And in the sign of Aries, the assignment is to act on that, to put our money where our mouths are. The pitfalls to watch out for, of course, are escapist, avoidant pleasure seeking, and that Neptunian illusion and delusion. So remember, especially with this reflective, meditative Mercury retrograde still in play, to slow things down and build in opportunities for recalibration, grounding, and reality checks. Which will come pretty quickly because on the morning of Sunday, March 8th, Venus will be conjunct Saturn at 2.5 degrees of Aries, providing an immediate wake-up call. Saturn asks, what is realistic and sustainable? What price we're willing to pay for what we want? Saturn invites serious commitment, focus, and self-discipline in how we engage with our relationships, our resources, our creativity, our quest for equality and justice. Saturn asks for loyalty, reliability, for us to embody our values with integrity and maturity. With Venus conjunct Saturn, you may need to set and maintain more firm boundaries. Maybe you need to carve out some solitude and alone time. Or on the flip side, you might feel isolated, limited, restricted, and need to focus on putting effort into reaching out and connecting with others. So as always, your mileage may vary, and you want to connect this to what's going on in your own experience, right? We will finish off the week here with a lovely transit on Sunday as Mercury at 15 degrees of Pisces will form a trine to Jupiter in Cancer, echoing that Sun-Jupiter trine from earlier in the week. But now in a more mental capacity, because as it connects to Mercury retrograde, Jupiter can help to expand our emotional and spiritual reflections, our thinking, our perspective, our communication, our compassion, our creativity, our connection. This is one of those days to stay open to cosmic messages, to use the tool of language for processing and healing. This trine can help us to become more aware of opportunities and get ready to act on them. So we have some good chances to process and grow from this transformational eclipse week here. I'm sending you all lots of love. That's it for this week's astrological weather report. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.
I'm not smoking anymore. And I'm not smoking any less.
I know that's right. Take that, that's another Bentley band. Take a
Another thing I love about New York City is, you guessed it, the Showtime dancers that appear every now and again when you are riding. It is peculiarly fashionable for certain kinds of people, usually New York transplants of a certain hue, to talk a lot of shit about how these people interrupt their trip or almost kick them, etc., and I'm over it. These folks perform great acrobatic feats under terrible conditions, without safety, and probably without healthcare. I mean, let's face it. Maybe you'd prefer they did this on a stage. Maybe they prefer that too. They don't have that. And so on your way to wherever you're going, you get to watch a show. And it's a pretty good show. Appreciate the skills and save the hate for the subway preacher.
What compels me to fight this society is, of course, outrage over injustice, a love of freedom, and a feeling of responsibility for perpetuating and enlarging the human spirit. Its beauty, creativity, and latent capacity to improve the world. I do not care to come to terms with an that corrodes all that is valuable in humanity, that eats away at all that is beautiful and noble in this human experience. And for this reason, I fight. Wow!
Okay, so the next time somebody asks you why you're wearing a mask, you should say to them, "Oh, I have COVID. Do you want it?" I may or may not have good evidence that it works pretty well. Okay, let's talk about basic human anatomy, and then we'll talk about who it serves to think of things as just being man or woman. For many people, biology defines sex, and sex is always a binary affair, etc., but biology doesn't work that way. Necessarily fit into human ordained binary categories. So while humans insist that you're either male or female, that you have either XY or XX, biology begs to differ. And after laying that out, it gets into some of the specifics of the science, of the chromosomal differences that make men present as women, I'm using air quotes, or women present as men, etc. Intersex people are as common as redheads, so it's not like it's just 3 or 4 people, but many, many millions. It's very common in nature. And the most important part for me is this last sentence here. So what is the answer? There isn't one, at least if we're looking for the answer in biology. We must not fall back on biology. Rather, we must remember that it is we, not biology, who decide who counts as male or female. And it is we who must take responsibility for our decisions. When you go down the aisle in the shopping mall or the supermarket or wherever, and there is a pink version and a blue version of the same exact item, and women are paying more for the pink version, do you think that's something that you want to uphold? Viewing so-called men and women as these two distinct different animals only serves the people in power. They want us to be in nuclear family units. They want us to police each other. They don't want us to have community care, but rather individual units that are easily divided from each other on certain bases.
It's about power. I know my comment was snarky, but it was really because I want people to actually examine these things and how they actually help us or hurt us as humans. And now let's get into this, more biology. And unfortunately, I have to cover this up because of the puritanical world we live in. But the so-called male part and the so-called female part are actually the same exact structure called the genital tubercle that differentiates and becomes one or the other, either an innie or an outie, etc., etc. We are not entirely different animals. We are just configured in slightly different ways. And the infinite variation of that is a beautiful thing. If we could just look at individuals as who they are, however they present, whatever their chromosomes are, as the people that they would like to be, and how they would like to be seen, that would help us more. And it would allow us to unify against the vulture class who wants us to be in these silly categories. The reason I made that snarky comment about this apparently cis man's actions is that it's because he views the job of cleaning as something that belongs to someone who was born with an innie. All of this is much more complicated than we've been led to believe, but it's also much simpler. Let people be whoever they want to be and respect them for it, and we'll all be better off.
Do you think you could voice act a villain? I prepared 3 short villain scripts for you to try out. Duet this and show us if you're evil enough. Good luck.
Well, 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 what do we have here? A little lamb come to play with the wolf. You're just in time. I was just getting hungry. More significant than insects to me. I have conquered kingdoms, defeated armies, slain gods. So I suggest you give up now. There's no such thing as heroes and villains. We're all villains. It's just that those who live to tell the tale will always paint themselves as the heroes.
So I came across this taco truck here with a curious name. I bet they don't have soft tacos. Okay, so I do some of my best thinking in the bathtub and have had some of the best conversations of my life with friends in the bathtub. Yes, that's a thing. So I thought I would come here and talk to you about something that has been on my mind recently. I was having a conversation with a special person and we came to the subject of feeling safe in relationships. And while we were talking about it, it occurred to me that I didn't really think about feeling safe or desired or any of that until I basically came out as non-binary. It wasn't until I stopped thinking about myself along the lines of what masculine is supposed to be that I really allowed myself to think about how I felt, what I wanted, what I needed from the world and from the people around me. And in a lot of ways that goes doubly so for people who are acculturated as black males, because we are usually thought as the source of threat, not of people who should desire or who need safety and who deserve safety. And in this conversation, I thought about and brought up the fact that, well, as a child, the only time I thought about safety or was told to protect myself and to be safe was when we were talking about police. Like the talk, I'm using air quotes here. But besides that, it's just all this masculine shit. Like, you've just got to put up with whatever. You've got to handle whatever comes your way. You've got to be brave. You've got to be strong. And all of those things along these, hyper-masculine terms that really aren't about bravery or strength, but more about domination. And, whether that's you dominating the next person or you being willing to submit to the next person who is more dominant than you, et cetera, et cetera. It's great that in many ways things are changing, but still, it's not comfortable to be a person perceived as male and be emotional in public. It's just not. No matter how much things have changed, there is still so much to be unlearned. So let me say this and say it very, very clearly. Whoever you are, You deserve love. You deserve safety. You deserve to be desired and to be cherished, not fetishized, but desired and cherished. Not seen for what you can provide, but just loved and held. Yes, there are things that we all have to endure, but life will teach those lessons to us by itself. We don't need to focus so much on strength, especially not the notion of strength that passes for masculinity right now. I'll say it again. You deserve to feel safe. And if you don't, go where you will.
The assumption that what currently exists must necessarily exist is the acid that corrodes all visionary thinking. If we do not do the impossible, then we will be faced with the unthinkable. Wow!
Okay, and with that, we have reached the end of our lucky number 13th episode of the Focused on Infinity Hour, more or less. We gave you a little bit more, a little bit less at the same time, because there was a lot of shenanigans and snafus, and guess what? We rolled with it, right? And thank you to those of you who chatted and participated in the chat here on YouTube live with us. Those of you who are here live really do help. Your comments, we love them. Even if we don't show all of them, we love them, and we are giggling about them or like enjoy them or just buoyed by them, and really just appreciate your being here with us, making this with you in real time. This show is a labor of love. We do it for free because we think it's something that should be done. And I think something to think about in the world we're building is everyone deserves to be able to do the things that they are called to do and survive while doing them, right? Because very few of us don't want to do literally anything. We all have different abilities and talents, and it's just that some of our abilities and talents aren't valued. And obviously, you talk about, any sort of work that is either feminized or considered to be that of Black or brown people is just not respected, right? But like, we all deserve to be who we are and contribute to the society in the unique way that we're supposed to, and to survive while doing it, to live indoors while doing it, to have access to all the good things of life while doing it. And those of us who can, I consider myself both hardworking and lucky, because I am able to do certain things which allow me to do the things that I feel like I should be doing and I need to be doing, right? But also, having said that, we need to support each other, right? Support your friends' businesses, support this show, support anyone you know who is an artisan, a creator, an artist, anyone at all, even if they're, and something that we've talked about before on the show. There are no laboratories for leftists, right? It's not that there are no people who are leftists or who really want a better world or who want to give away their knowledge for free. They're captured by the fact that there is nothing. I mean, we barely have libraries, right? If libraries were suggested now, it would be shot down by everyone in the mainstream political establishment, left and so-called left and right, as like some socialist nonsense. What, we're giving people books for free to just go somewhere for free and sit and read? Ew. But that sort of idea should be expanded to many more things. There should be things like laboratories and gymnasiums and stuff like that are just free. There should be theater that is free, that has access to good lighting and good sound, right? And people should be able to go to those things, because every time a human gets to play and discover themselves, the human species advances. That is one of the reasons that I think we advanced so much so far during the TikTok era, which I will always hold is the reason we have a shot right now, because of the ways that we advance, because the ways we learn so much about ourselves and about each other. Most of you are in this room, either directly or indirectly, because of TikTok, because of that platform and the way that it made other platforms change. And guess what? TikTok didn't come from America, right? Because that idea, the idea of just anyone going viral, was something that the United States of America did not want to do because they wanted to gatekeep, and that's what they always do, right? And now that they have control over it again, we're back to gatekeeping. But the genie's out of the bottle, right? We've connected in so many different places and in so many different ways that they can't fucking stop us. And that, again, is a big part of the hope. Before I go for today, I wanted to remind y'all that we are currently caught up in the end stages of a nightmare fantasy for a capitalist death cult and also for a religious death cult that have joined forces for the most grisly effects. And I want to remind you that for them, the cruelty is the point. Because at the end of their mythology, just before, their deity returns, cataclysm, horrors, right? They're making these horrors happen so that they can then say, see, we told you. And never believe a prophecy from people who have the power to make their prophecy just happen, right? Like, there's a difference between being a Cassandra and being an emperor, right? An emperor can tell you in 300 days, this other nation will cease to exist. It's a prophecy. No, it's not a prophecy. You're building an army. You're going to go and you're going to stomp out those people. That's a plan. That's not a prophecy, right? Prophecies come from the people. Prophecies are the way that the people tap in to the undercurrent. And the best of the Piscean spirit is dissolving oneself to be connected with the undercurrent that gives us messages from places outside of ourselves that we can't personally touch. And that's something to tap into in this whole Mercury retrograde time. And we're also, as was said in the astrological weather report, we are releasing a lot of those Virgo impulses because, look, love Virgo down most of the time. But that's the motherfucker that will tell you what's not going to work. That was the motherfucker that when you show them with a plan or something that they've never heard of, they're going to just tell you, this is why this is not going to work, right? That's the energy we need to be releasing right now. Because in order to have anything new, you have to do what? You have to believe. You have to believe. Belief is not naive. Sometimes it's naive. sometimes it's raw delusion, yes. But belief itself is not naive. Belief itself is what allows us to dream into reality the new. It's the thing that allows us to create. It's what allows us to pull from the formless void of imagination, from the undercurrents, from history, from the collected human unconscious, right? And pull something out of that and turn it into something real, into something flesh. It takes belief. And getting out of these conditions, well, that's going to take belief. That's not going to take people being like, well, that's not going to work because they tried that in 1962 and like that, it didn't work then. Okay, all right, look, babe, go do something better. Okay? We don't need to just be critiquing things right now, right? We need to be building things and we need to be believing in things. And that's not saying to be Pollyanna or just, think that by standing outside and holding your hands up that money is just going to fall out of the sky. No. Magic appears through the available means of manifestation, right? Magic is real, but it appears through the available means of manifestation. So you've got to make some shit happen. And the magic is that you'll get something that you couldn't even have dreamed. That the outcome could be better than you ever could have imagined. Because guess what? Realism, being genuinely realistic, includes saying, well, this thing might not work. It also includes saying, this could work really fucking well. We could get exactly everything we've ever wanted. We could have the world, the government, the love, the friendships, the partnerships. We could have our wildest dreams. We could. That could happen. That is also a thing that happens in this world, right? So add that in. Even as the darkness coalesces, even as we continue to go to war with Iran and other countries, somebody else is going to fucking declare war on us, I believe. I do not know, but I believe. Not because I am some sort of wild prophet, but because everything is governed by the rule of one thing leads to another. And people are sick of our shit worldwide, right? This only leads one way. This only leads one way. Comparisons to the Third Reich are, yes, of course, this is all pure United States. Yes, it is. But again, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? The Third Reich was rhyming with the early days of the United States. And now it's back and forth, right? It's like that meme where it's like, the one person copying off the other person, copying off the other person, right? And two of those are the United States. Yes. Lastly, y'all, trans people are in the crosshairs like and listen, we've always been, we know this, right? But I don't give a good goddamn what you think about trans people. I don't care. This is not about you, first of all, but it's not even about what you think about trans people, right? The Magnus Hirschfeld Institute was destroyed by the Nazis. A lot of the book burning pictures you've seen from that time, they were burning books about gender variation. They were burning books about gayness, about queerness, about transness. The reason that the right wing is able to say now that all this stuff just appeared is because they literally burned the fucking books and set humankind back decades, maybe hundreds of years. And we're just now catching up to what we should have known. History is repeating itself, or at least it's rhyming. In Kansas, they didn't give people time to get new documentation. Overnight, your driver's license is no longer valid. That is a voter's rights issue, sure. It is a civil rights issue, sure. It's a human rights issue, sure. It's a trans rights issue, sure. But what it mostly is the vulture class showing us how they are going to take complete control and get rid of even the thin veneer of democracy that we had. If you let them do it to trans people, the way that you have let them do it to immigrants, the way that you have been letting them do it to Black and brown people, overwhelmingly overrepresented in the prison system, which is the slavery system, if you let them keep doing that, there will be no one left to come for you. As I have said many times before, but I really say it a lot because I want y'all to internalize it. That poem by Martin Niemöller should have started First They Came for the queer and trans people, because that's what happened back then. But Martin Niemöller didn't give a shit about queer and trans people, and that's how they consolidated their power. And it's happening again. Are you going to fight? Do you understand that we're in a state of war? Do you understand that you are currently at this time being punched by the vulture class, by the state? That the war against people in Iran is actually a war against you? Do you get that, right? If you get it, act like you get it. It's time to fight. And that fighting also comes in the form of love, connection, joy, right? But not just that. It also takes discipline, tenacity, and hard work. All of it. All of it, right? I believe that we can get out of this in some way, right? I don't think we'll all see it, but I know they're doing too fucking much, right? And we've got to heighten the contradictions. We got to take the fight to them in every way that is possible. I'm not suggesting anything illegal because I wouldn't do that on an open platform like this now, would I? But I am suggesting that you do everything you can do and don't tell anybody about the stuff if you want to do something illegal, look, don't tell anybody about it. Okay? Don't tell nobody about this. Right? Real G's move in silence like lasagna. Okay? 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 Gabish? Okay? This time we win. Yes, that's it. But for now, let me say a hearty thank you to Worm, our constant contributor and excellent animator and voice. I'll tell that story another time. And of course, thank you to Alice of Alice Folk Astrology. Please do book a reading with them for the astrological weather report, keeping us in tune with what's going to be happening in the sky and therefore as above, so below down here over the next week. And thank you, of course, to my excellent collaborator, co-conspirator, Mistrix, who helps me put all this together. Please do like, stream, follow, subscribe, and connect with us everywhere. And join the House of Infinity. House of Infinity at protonmail.com to get vetted, plug in with us, because we're doing a lot now, but we're going to be doing even more because the times call for it. Much love, and we'll see you next time.